Hard work is respected, but it is not what creates power. Power is created when others work, and your name is remembered. Welcome to Career Canvas Power, where transformation becomes your identity. Here, we turn knowledge into real power for your life. There is a moment in every ambitious person's life when they realize something uncomfortable, that effort alone is not enough. That no matter how hard you work, how long you grind, there are limits you cannot break, limits of time, limits of energy, limits of human capacity. And yet, if you observe closely, history tells a different story. The individuals who rose above the rest, the ones who seemed almost untouchable in their efficiency and results, were not necessarily the hardest workers in the room. They were the smartest directors of effort. This is where Law 7 from the 48 Laws of Power, by Robert Greene begins to unfold its quiet but dangerous truth. Power, real power, does not come from doing everything yourself. It comes from understanding how to use everything around you. It comes from recognizing that the world is already full of talent, knowledge, systems, and past discoveries, and the one who knows how to orchestrate these elements becomes unstoppable. This law is not about avoiding work, it is about avoiding wasted effort. It is about conserving your energy for what truly matters: control, direction, and vision. Because in the end, the one who controls the game is always more powerful than the one who plays it tirelessly. At the heart of this law lies a judgment so simple, yet so profound, that most people overlook it completely. Use the wisdom, knowledge, and labor of others to further your own cause. It sounds almost unfair at first, almost manipulative. But look deeper, and you will see that this is not exploitation, it is strategy. Imagine two individuals, one who insists on doing everything alone, believing that credit must be earned through personal struggle, and another who understands people, who recognizes talent, who knows how to position others in roles where their strengths are maximized. The first person moves slowly, burdened by limitations. The second moves with speed that feels almost supernatural. Tasks are completed faster, ideas are executed better, and results appear with an efficiency that others cannot explain. And this is where the illusion of power begins, the godlike aura that Greene speaks of. People begin to see you not as someone working hard, but as someone who simply gets things done, effortlessly. What they don't see is the invisible network of effort behind you. Over time, something even more interesting happens. The names of those who contributed fade into the background, while your name rises to the surface, attached to the final outcome. History rarely remembers the hands that built, it remembers the mind that directed. And whether one accepts it or not, this is a recurring pattern of power across every era. To truly understand the depth of this law, you must shift your mindset from effort to leverage. Most people are conditioned to believe that success is proportional to how much they personally do. But Law 7 dismantles this belief, and replaces it with a more powerful principle: success is proportional to how effectively you multiply effort, through others and through existing resources. There are two dimensions to this, and both are equally critical. The first is the use of living people, the art of delegation, direction, and positioning. This is not about blindly assigning tasks, it is about recognizing who is better than you at specific things, and allowing them to operate within your vision. A true strategist does not compete with their team, they build a system where each person contributes their best, while the strategist remains in control of the bigger picture. They become the architect, not the laborer. The second dimension is even more subtle, yet more powerful: the use of what can be called dead work. Every idea, every invention, every discovery that exists today is a result of someone else's effort in the past. And yet, most people ignore this vast reservoir of knowledge, choosing instead to start from zero, wasting time reinventing what already exists. The powerful mind does the opposite. It studies history, borrows ideas, refines existing systems, and builds upon foundations already laid. It understands that originality is often an illusion. What truly matters is how effectively you combine and apply what already exists. Why struggle to create something entirely new, when you can take what is proven, adapt it, and move ahead faster than everyone else? This is not shortcut thinking, it is strategic acceleration. And once you begin to see the world through this lens, everything changes. You stop measuring your worth by how much you do, and start measuring it by how much you can make happen. That is the shift from worker to power player, from effort to influence, from limitation to dominance. If you observe carefully, beneath every system of power lies a silent psychological truth: people crave recognition. Not money first, not even success at times, but the feeling that their effort is seen, valued, and remembered. This desire becomes the very lever that power players learn to use. Because in reality, the world does not reward effort, it rewards perception. The one who controls how the story is told, controls who becomes the hero of that story. And this is where Law 7 reveals its deeper psychological edge. It is not just about using others' work, it is about positioning yourself as the origin of results. When people look at an outcome, they rarely investigate the process behind it. They look for a face, a name, a central figure to associate with success. And if you have carefully crafted that perception, that name becomes yours. Over time, something subtle but powerful happens. You are no longer seen as someone who works. You are seen as someone from whom results naturally flow. This is what creates authority. This is what builds influence. Because in power dynamics, reality is often secondary, and perception becomes the truth people accept. But to understand the cost of ignoring this law, you must step into one of history's most striking contrasts: the story of Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison. Tesla was, without question, a mind far ahead of his time. His ideas were revolutionary, his innovations brilliant, and his dedication unmatched. Yet, he believed in working alone, in focusing purely on invention, untouched by the politics of credit or recognition. He trusted that the value of his work would speak for itself. But the world does not operate on such idealism. Edison, on the other hand, understood something Tesla chose to ignore. He built teams, surrounded himself with skilled individuals, and created systems where ideas could be produced, tested, and refined at a much faster pace. But more importantly, Edison controlled the narrative. He ensured that every invention emerging from his network carried his name. He mastered not just creation, but presentation. And so, history took its course in a predictable yet brutal way. Tesla, despite his genius, struggled financially, remained under-recognized, and faded into relative obscurity during his lifetime. Edison, leveraging both people and perception, rose to fame, power, and lasting recognition. And here lies the uncomfortable lesson: genius alone is fragile. Without strategy, without leverage, without control over perception, even the brightest mind can be overshadowed by someone less brilliant, but far more strategic. Now look deeper into Edison's method, and you begin to see that his success was not accidental, it was engineered. He did not isolate himself in pursuit of solitary brilliance. Instead, he created one of the earliest forms of what we now call an innovation ecosystem. Inside his laboratories, teams of scientists, engineers, and thinkers worked continuously, each contributing pieces of knowledge, experiments, and improvements. Edison's role was not to outwork them in every technical detail, but to direct, connect, and refine. He became the center of gravity around which all effort revolved. Every idea passed through his vision. Every breakthrough was aligned with his direction. And while many minds contributed to the final result, the world saw a single name: Edison. This was not coincidence, it was positioning. He combined the labor of others, the accumulated knowledge of the past, and a sharp understanding of public image to construct a persona of relentless genius. To the outside world, it appeared as though he was producing innovations one after another, almost effortlessly. But behind that illusion was a carefully managed system of leverage. And this is where the real lesson lies, not in admiring Edison, but in understanding the mechanism he mastered. Power is not about doing everything, it is about ensuring that everything done contributes to your vision, your name, your influence. When you learn to stand at that center, when you learn to turn collective effort into singular recognition, you step into a different level of control. A level where you are no longer just participating in the game, you are shaping how the game itself is perceived. As the layers of this law unfold, a sharper truth begins to emerge. Power has never been about how much you personally do, it has always been about how much you can make happen. The most effective individuals are not the ones buried in endless effort, but the ones who understand leverage. They look at the world and see not tasks, but opportunities to multiply output through people and existing knowledge. They understand that every person carries a skill you may not have, and every idea in history is a tool waiting to be reused. Instead of exhausting themselves trying to prove their worth through hard work alone, they conserve their energy and direct it wisely. They position themselves as the source, the mind behind the movement, the one connecting all pieces into a single outcome. And when results begin to appear quickly and consistently, something powerful happens. Others start to perceive them as superior, almost extraordinary. This illusion of effortless success is not magic, it is strategy. They do not waste time doing what others can do better or faster. They borrow intelligently, build upon what already exists, and move ahead, while others are still starting from zero. In this way, they turn time itself into an advantage, and slowly, quietly, they rise above the crowd without appearing to struggle at all. But power, when handled without awareness, carries its own dangers. If you take credit too aggressively, if you make it too obvious that you are using others without acknowledgement, resentment begins to grow beneath the surface. People may continue to work for you, but their loyalty weakens, and over time, that hidden dissatisfaction can turn into resistance, or even quiet rebellion. This is where many fail, not because they misunderstand the law, but because they apply it without subtlety. Managing people requires more than direction, it requires emotional intelligence, an understanding of how far you can push without breaking trust. If those working under you feel completely exploited, they may withdraw their best efforts or even work against you. At the same time, poor coordination and lack of clarity can turn leverage into chaos. If you depend on others but fail to guide them properly, the entire system collapses, and you are left with neither control nor results. There is also a hidden risk of overdependence, relying so heavily on others that you lose your own ability to act independently when needed. True power is not blind reliance, it is controlled reliance. And so, this law demands balance, the balance between control and subtlety, between authority and respect, between taking credit and maintaining trust. Without this balance, the very strategy that can elevate, you can also become the reason for your downfall. And yet, the deepest mastery of this law is not in following it blindly, but in knowing when to step away from it. There are moments in life when doing the work yourself is not just necessary, but essential. When you are learning a skill for the first time, you cannot outsource understanding, you must experience the struggle, the mistakes, the process that builds real competence. When trust is uncertain, when you cannot rely on the people around you, depending on others becomes a risk rather than a strength. And in situations where precision and complete control are critical, delegation can introduce errors that cost more than the effort you tried to save. This is where the intelligent mind shifts strategy. It recognizes that power is flexible, not rigid. Sometimes, instead of taking credit, the wiser move is to give it. When you acknowledge others, when you allow them to feel valued and recognized, something powerful happens. They become more loyal, more motivated, more willing to contribute even greater effort in the future. By sharing credit strategically, you actually strengthen your position rather than weaken it. This is the paradox of power: the more secure you are, the less you need to prove ownership of every success. And this is where true mastery lies, not in constantly claiming recognition, but in choosing carefully when to claim it, and when to distribute it. Because the one who understands this balance does not just use people, they build influence over them. And influence, once established, becomes far more powerful and lasting than simple credit ever could be. As this understanding settles in, the law slowly transforms from an idea into a method you can actually live by. It begins with something simple but powerful: learning to step back and ask, is this the best use of my time, or can someone else do this better? Intelligent delegation is not about escaping work, it is about assigning the right work to the right people. You start identifying experts, specialists, those who have already spent years mastering what you are just beginning to explore. Instead of competing with them, you align them with your vision. You build systems where each person contributes their strength, while you focus on connecting all pieces into a meaningful outcome. At the same time, you begin to look backward into history, not as a student memorizing facts, but as a strategist searching for usable ideas. You realize that most problems you face today have already been solved in some form before. So instead of starting from zero, you reuse, adapt, and improve what already exists. Your role slowly shifts from execution to strategy, from doing everything to deciding what must be done and how it should appear. And then comes the final layer, the one most people ignore: you control how results are presented. Because no matter how good the work is, if the story is not told correctly, the impact is lost. So you shape the narrative carefully, ensuring that outcomes are associated with your direction, your leadership, your vision. This is not manipulation for the sake of ego, it is positioning for the sake of power. And once you apply this consistently, your growth stops being linear, it becomes exponential. And in the end, the lesson of this law settles into a single, undeniable truth: power is never about how much you personally struggle, but about how wisely you use everything around you. The world is already filled with effort, knowledge, and capability. The difference lies in who knows how to organize it. Those who insist on doing everything themselves may feel proud of their hard work, but they remain limited by it. Those who learn to leverage others, to build upon existing ideas, and to control perception, move ahead with a speed that seems almost unfair. But this path requires awareness, it requires understanding human psychology, managing relationships carefully, and maintaining balance between taking credit and sustaining trust. Because power without control becomes chaos, and control without subtlety becomes resistance. The true master is the one who can handle both. And as history quietly reminds us again and again, it is rarely the worker who is remembered. It is the one who stood behind the work, directed it, and made the world believe it all began with them. Thank you. Remember, real power comes from understanding and applying. Stay connected with Career Canvas Power, your transformation continues.